God, I got it on my phone.
This meeting is called to order. Welcome. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Everyone enjoying the mosquitoes? All right. Do we have any conflict of interest statements to turn in this evening? No. All right. Moving on. We'll start with our presentations. Craig Thompson is here from Hanson. Come on up. We've got some good news, I hear.
Howdy, Craig Thompson. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. Update about Village Park. So the good news I mentioned to Marvin earlier. First of all, let me say I sent a letter to Marvin and to the PIPOA office and copied some folks on the board. And just to let you all know, and I hope Marvin sent that letter around. This was last week. It was about a path forward on how to get the park back to where it was when we started some of the delays. That letter talks about putting down herbicide. That letter talks about stripping and grubbing all of the weeds off, basically back to where we were when we were ready to put down sod. We won't do that until the irrigation pump is ready to go, fired up, electrified, and that's what the good news was. I mentioned to Marvin earlier today, there has been a massive amount of back and forth with AEP several times trying to get the meter installed. The contractor, the electrician, myself have been on the phone with AEP this week and especially today, have it clarified now. There's one more phone call that needs to be made. We were told about a couple days to get that meter installed. Once that meter is installed, we can electrify the pumps. It'll take about a week to calibrate the entire irrigation system once that pump's turned on, and then we're going to start the process of herbicide, giving that about a week, clearing it out of there, and then sod placement. Now what will happen is you'll see this happen in about 4 or 5 different zones, different phases, because of the intense watering that needs to happen when you put that sod down first. We're going to do a smaller zone so that we can keep the irrigation on for extended periods of time. Of course, all that water is coming from the city at no cost, and so we're going to water the heck out of that sod for about 2 weeks. And out in front of that, they'll be putting the herbicide down, clearing, grubbing, getting it prepared for sod, bringing back the sod, and so you'll see a progression of about 4 or 5 zones like that. Expected finish date with regard to this, and if we get the AEP, meter put in next week or late this week, should be the end of August or so. It is a couple month delay. No other costs to the PIPOA with regards to that, all the stripping and everything the project team is going to bear. I'll open it up for any questions with regard to that.
You said August.
Yeah, the end of August. The end of August, it may go into September. So what's going to happen, so once we finish those zones and we get all the sod placed, and mind you, just when we place that first section, we're going to be watering it intensely, but it'll be continually watered also, and so that watering regime will be done by the contractor. When we have all the zones in the sod placed, in 2 weeks or so after that, that last zone gets about 2 weeks to get its roots set. The PIPOA will do a substantial completion walkthrough at that point. The PIPOA will take over the mowing of that. But what will happen is a month after that, there's one more thing that the contractor will have to come and do. They'll have to come in and put down a post-emergent or a pre-emergent, I forget which one it is, sorry. But there's a pre-emergent that is going to be part of the maintenance regime, but that's something that the contractor has in their scope, and they'll do that 30 days after that last 2-week grow-in. And then after that, we'll do a final walkthrough to get a final completion once after that.
So we're going to be responsible for post-emergent after that somewhere?
So I did with that letter, and maybe it was on Monday when I sent the volleyball court cost to Marvin. I also, in that letter, stated how important it's going to be with the PIPOA. You all know out here with the turf, you go place turf, there's a lot more maintenance than just putting it in and watering it and mowing it. You got to make sure you're putting down, you know, the right herbicides and pre-emergents to keep the things from growing in. You know, it's the island, stuff blows around. You know, dogs, birds, every types of wildlife is going to be running through here and bringing all kinds of plants and weeds in here. And so, you know, the maintenance, the yearly maintenance is going to be as important as these construction activities to keep this park usable. So, yeah, most definitely. But that'll start late August, early September. Hopefully we'll have complete sod on by then.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Anybody else? All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming.
You bet.
Appreciate
Yep.
it. Thanks for coming out.
Totally worth it to come out for that.
Not different. Not different.
Okay, next on our agenda is the canal marker replacement, blue coastal construction. With everybody's, what?
Question. Okay, before we move off this topic, this park, there's a few other things on that list. The AEP, tennis courts, other amenities, playground funding. So where are we at with the playground funding? We had a request from Jen Seymour to write a letter that supported the park equipment. So has that letter gone back to Jen yet?
No, it hasn't gone to Jen. I sent that off to our board attorney, asking him to draft that letter to make sure it contained all the legalities needed. Oh, sorry. Sent that off to the board attorney, John Bell, to draft so it contains the necessary legalities.
When was that sent?
It was sent the same day, a couple of days after she, it's either sent yesterday or the day before, I don't remember. I haven't received it back from John, though.
And we have full intention of funding the park equipment?
Well, I believe she's funded all the park equipment that she needs. Is she here? I don't know if she's here or not. Nope. So she has complete funding, she told me, for her playground equipment.
So she was looking for some authorizations for use of equipment and things like that.
She just wanted authorization to install it and have her community build. And so that went to Bell for him to write.
And she wants electricity and
Yeah,
water.
right. She wants to use the POA office electricity if need be and use the restrooms, things like that. I don't foresee a problem with that, do you? No.
So, Marvin, the other question that I have, there's an item on here called plan. So what is the plan for, we have to maintain, mow, trim,
Herbicide.
do the application. So do we have a, are we going to do that ourselves, or are we going to contract it out? If
that's
we're
something
contract it, we have it ready to go out for bid.
That's something Becky was working on before she left, and I think she has a draft proposal. It has not been sent out. The Fox people are interested in taking on that job, so once we get a proposal, we'll put together a final proposal for bids, then it'll go to Fox and 2, 3, 4 others, whoever's appropriate. But no, we don't have it under contract at this time, but we're working on it.
We are.
Marta.
Once this part of the project is done, we are working with Jay Ellington at Parks and Recs, and he's coming out to meet with us and take a look at the park. And he is going to help us obtain the specs and costs involved in shade structures, some benches so moms can sit down and watch their kids on the playground, and then get some equipment for the 2 to 4-year-olds. And how this will be funded is through an anonymous donor that Greg Smith has approached us with. And he wants the specs and the costs, and Jay's going to help us do that. So that'll be another nice part.
Daryl, you put up the tennis court item here. Would you like to comment on that?
Sure.
It just originated from 3 or 4 people right after Schlitterbahn decided to shut down their tennis courts, but I think they've since reopened them. Yeah. I haven't heard anything since, so as of right now, I kind of put that on the back burner, even take it off the agenda until I'm approached again. Unless someone else knows somebody that wants to go forward with it, I haven't been talked to. I said they needed to kind of get somebody to take a lead and be the contact person, and that's the last I left it. So.
Carter, go
I
ahead.
just, I think it's a brilliant use of some of the property, and I think it ought to be on our wish list, and we ought to figure out how to fund it. And, I think a tennis court would be great over there.
It would.
Yeah. So,
I think Schlitterbahn only has, what, 2 courts?
Yeah.
So,
there's a demand for sure out there, for sure. Yeah. Great.
All right, anything else under that topic? Okay, item number 2, canal marker replacement. I think, let's fold that down into the Canals and Waterways Committee report. There's some discussion to be had on that. Any objections? Nope, okay. Members, let's see, canal, the ISAC report. I don't know if he sent us one or not.
It was very
Got
short.
one?
Yep, we sure did.
Oh, here it is. All right, we do have a report from Stan Hulsey, our ISAC representative. Let's see. ISAC has unanimously voted to recommend safety, lighting, accessibility, and other improvements under the JFK Bridge at the 2018 bond election. Okay, a little safety and lighting. Can't hurt with that, can it? That's all he has to say. Carter, can you expound on that? Anything else to add?
Yeah, we're including,
What that's talking about is the $150,000 bond section of the bond that's coming to the island. Look, originally we had it kind of spread out, fixing some of these islands out here where you can't go completely across, and some safety issues like that. And it just started, so the city went back and did bids on it and stuff, and some of the numbers came back and they were just really, really out of budget. And so we decided to focus in one spot. And so we decided to focus, it's only $150,000 underneath the bridge to improve the lighting and some more parking, some, I can't remember the whole list, but it's a pretty interesting situation. The other thing that was included in that was canal markers on the Packard Channel and lights at the end of the Packard Channel. And it's fun.
Monday, we like that. Lisa, do you have the sign-ins with the member comments?
If I may, Mr. Carter gave a wonderful presentation to me and a half, not $150,000.
I'm sorry.
Well,
Thank
the record should reflect that. That's all I have.
I'm sorry, there are a couple more zeros. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're right. You're right. It was just, when we got the price, it was like, 6.1 million to do all the things on our wish list. This, Isaac approved, and so we had to back it down. I'm sorry, you're exactly right. It's a chunk of change. It's good money.
1.5 million.
Of course, the bond has to pass first. And so that's kind of where I am on it. But the markers on the canal are funded, 67,000 out of tourism. Sorry, big number.
Okay. First person on the list, Michelle Jeffers.
Thank you, Brian.
Can you go ahead and name the next 2 or 3 speakers this way we don't have to wait for them to walk up?
Sure.
They can wait up here.
I'm sorry, my husband and I are new, and we thought it was a sign-in sheet, so can you mark Brad and Tina Walker off? We apologize.
A lot of people do that, don't worry.
Sorry about that.
You don't have
All right, we'll mark you off the list, or if we call your name, just say, I don't want to speak. All right, next on deck, Ron Jeffers, and in the hole, as they say in baseball, Philip and D. Gurley. Gurley?
It's Surly, actually.
Surly? All right, Michelle.
On May 29, 2018, President Marvin Jones convened a town hall meeting at the Island Presbyterian Church. The meeting of the membership was a review of financial allegations presented by Jim McFadden at a prior board meeting. The meeting began at 6 p.m. Central. There were approximately 50 people in the room. Island Issues cameras recorded the first 2 rows, and KRIS cameras recorded the full audience. Mr. Jones presided until 6:16 p.m., at which time he began taking questions. Please take note that the meeting remained orderly for the first 30 or so minutes. At 6:22:30 p.m., a call was placed to the Corpus Christi Police Department requesting assistance. Here's the transcript of that call. Metropolitan Office, is this the police department? Yes, it is. There is a meeting of the Padre Island Property Owners Association with no security at the Presbyterian Church, and I would recommend someone come stop in on this meeting. Okay, there's a meeting at where? I'm sorry? The Presbyterian Church on the island. Okay, and what's going on? There's a public town hall meeting, and I would recommend that someone from security come out here because it's getting a little heated. Okay, and that's the island, right? Nothing emergency, but it's getting heated, and people are yelling and stuff like that. There's a large number of people. Okay, about how many would you say? 50. Okay, no one's actually fighting down there, is that right? Excuse me? No one is actually fist fighting or anything like that though, right? Well, not yet. It's getting really heated. Okay, what was your name, sir? Brent Moore. Okay, we'll get them out there, all right? Thanks, bye. CCPD dispatched 3 police cruisers to the Island Presbyterian Church. This was a complete waste of resources from an already understaffed police department. At approximately 6:30 p.m., Mr. Moore began verbally harassing 3 members in the audience, knowing that the CCPD was on their way. Mr. Moore challenged one of them to take this outside, man to man. When the officers arrived, a member was calmly speaking about the need for an audit, and the members were quietly listening to her. Police saw no need for assistance and left. At 6:50 p.m., Mr. Moore initiated an inflammatory series of questioning, which was unrelated to the town hall agenda. And due to Mr. Moore's belligerence, the meeting was adjourned 8 minutes later by President Jones.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brent. Thank you, Brent.
Martin.
Ron Jeffers, please.
Martin.
We don't comment after
When did that start?
It's always been that way.
Martin.
No. No.
I'm not going to address that.
What's the
I
problem?
just missed the sign-in list. I need to have a public comment period as well.
No.
3 minutes.
Can we see the sign in there?
When we're through, that you can have it. Next, Ron Jeffers.
I'll pass it.
Philip and Dee.
They don't want to take the sign in.
Okay. Sue Stockton.
Okay.
Sheila Allen.
I'll pass for now, thank you.
Richard Pittman. How you doing, Richard?
Thanks for being here.
Richard Pittman, I live at 14325 Kareem. And I know on the agenda this evening, there are the canal markers. September, I came before this board complaining about the state of affair of the canal markers, both the north entrance and the south entrance. Any of you guys that are boaters, you know that they've all fallen down. Pretty much every one of them. Not only that, but the markers have deteriorated to the point where you cannot see them at night. I think from a personal injury lawyer standpoint, this is probably one of the biggest liabilities that the POA has. Somebody hits one of those markers, I guarantee you, there's going to be a lawsuit over that. So, September I complained. October, I was asked to be on the Canals and Waterway Committee. And I, at that time, had Carl Rubenstein and Kevin Hendrickson. The two of them and myself volunteered 3 weekends to go out and mark the status of every marker that there was in the canal, in those 2 canals. I then spent another probably 100 hours putting together maps, which I've got copies of here, but put together maps, GPS information, put together specification, got all that in William Golston's hands, who ended up then taking that, and finally, with the new board, they were put out for bid. Right now, I'm assuming it's going to be presented to you later this evening, but right now, there is a bid of $68,000 to replace 34 markers. That is 13 in the South Canal and 21 in the North Canal. There has been some discussion about piecemealing this. Only doing a portion, trying to save money. There has been, the board, a few members of the board have gone out and looked at some of the markers and think that they don't need to be replaced. They're leaning over, you can't really, they look on the top anyway, they look like they're in good condition. I contend that while we have somebody out there replacing these markers with a barge and all the equipment necessary to put them in, we need to do them all right now, and I encourage the board to vote for that. If we piecemeal this thing, to me, it's the penny wise, dollar foolish. I think that that has to be done. I don't think that you would build a stilt house and put the new house on top of old pile.
Richard, go ahead, take another few seconds.
Okay, so I've got another item to discuss. Is that my 3 minutes already? I should have asked you to
You've
give
got
me
4 minutes by now.
Really? The next thing, so that's enough about that. What I've done is I brought a copy of the Unified Facilities Criteria. This ends up being the Navy, the Army Corps of Engineers, and the Air Force's criteria for investigating bulkheads. The contract, I don't care whether you like Hansen or not, the contract with Hansen was canceled after 8 miles of bulkhead was surveyed. We've got a baseline right now of 8 miles. We need the other 24 miles done. I don't care whether Hansen does it or somebody else, as long as they're a certified engineer. This is important information. Although some members of the board did not think that it was, this criteria is going to tell you what a level 1 survey is. I've got a copy for each board member. It's going to tell you what a level 1 survey is, and it is a drive-by, swim-by. You got to have a baseline. You got to document it. Right now, we have got 8 miles documented.
Sorry, that's 5 minutes.
Sorry, I
gave you extra time.
I have passion.
I appreciate your passion, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for making copies.
Thank you.
Brent Hess.
S15846 Punta Espada Loop. Due to the 3-minute rule, I'll be reading the first half of this notice, and my wife Leslie will conclude with her 3 minutes. Over the past 35 years, she has served as a CFO and administrator and/or board member for both for-profit and non-profit organizations, including the POA board, and I'm a financial tax expert in the lead brokerage industry. We are by no means banking experts, but we have learned a few things about sound banking practices and how they affect an organization. For many years, our POA had all board members as signers on our bank accounts to allow for flexibility so bills are paid timely, knowing that board members aren't always available on a daily basis. At the first board meeting of our newly elected board members in March 2018, they passed a motion to limit the number of signers to the president, treasurer, executive director, and the VP, the positions held by the newer members. Odd, since they were the new board members except for the president who had one previous year of service. They hadn't learned how the organization was functioning before making drastic changes, but we held our opinion and give them the benefit of the doubt. Based on actions over the past few weeks, we now have some serious concerns. We exercised our members' rights to view copies of bank records regarding recent banking transactions. We learned that on June 12th, some members of our board suddenly closed the POA account at Frost Bank with no documentation other than simply going in to get a counter cashier's check in the amount of $202,205.80. There appears to be no other documentation since the request included all closing documents on the Frost Bank accounts. The documentation request was approved by President Jones, and a copy of the cashier's check is the only documentation provided to the POA office when the president and treasurer closed the account. We are comforted to note exactly the same amount was deposited into an account at American Bank on the same day. However, they failed to notify the staff or the remaining board members that they did this, and it resulted in our payroll taxes being late because they were submitted from the wrong bank, as evidenced by 2 late notices dated 6/17 and 6/19/2018 from the electronic federal tax payment system. We didn't receive any documentation as to any late fees, interest, or insufficient fund fees that the POA may have incurred. We also requested copies of all supporting opening documents for the new account. It doesn't appear that this change in vendors went out for bid per our purchasing policy, 3 bids minimum for anything over $5,000. Since no documentation was provided as evidence other than a letter from American Banks dated 6/22/18 thanking the POA and Mr. Jones for their business. Most concerning was the actual bank documents. They handed over over $202,000 to the bank, and the POA has no signed banking documents on file other than a deposit slip. We were provided unsigned copies of documents that were submitted to the bank and told that the signed copies were submitted to the bank without making copies. The POA is pending signed documents for this large sum of money that was handed over.
Leslie Hess, 15846 Punta Espada Loop. We assume that the documents were signed and submitted to the bank, but the banking documents were falsified. The corporate authorization resolution was executed that states, I, Vicki Martin, certify that I am the secretary of the above-named corporation, and that the following is a correct copy of resolutions adopted at a meeting of the board of directors of this corporation, duly and properly called and held. These resolutions appear in the minutes of that meeting and have not been rescinded or modified. Later on in the document, I further certify that the board of directors of this corporation have, and at this time of adoption of this resolution, have full power and lawful authority to adopt the foregoing resolutions and to confer the powers granted to the persons named who have full power and lawful authority to exercise the same. The document then had signature lines for 4 officers to sign the document. These documents were not properly executed, and the bank was provided false statements that the board meeting was properly called and specific resolutions were proposed and approved. Not only do our past board members not show any documentation that this resolution was authorized, 3 board members didn't even know that changing of the banks had occurred until at least a week after the transaction. The agenda for this board's meeting shows that no notice has been provided that a motion would be made to approve the resolution after the fact. In fact, the agenda clearly states no motion required and that the banking is only an update. If it was that easy to move $200,000 of our money with no notice or board resolution, what's to stop these funds or the investment funds of over $12 million from taking a trip to the Cayman Islands bank account? We are not accusing our board members of any such actions. But what occurred was scary. They did it just because they could. They indicated they were authorized to move the funds because our bylaws state the duties of the treasurer include custodian of the funds, and the president can execute the contracts. But why the urgency and why the secrecy? We'd love to see the board take immediate action so no board members, current or future, could ever move our funds without full board approval. But they can't fix this loophole. At the special board meeting, at the special members meeting, the Arch Group convinced the members of the community that we needed to take away the board's ability to make changes to the bylaws for any reason. Well, folks, the documents make it easy to walk out with our money, and the banks can't stop them any more than Frost Bank could when they pulled out the counter check for $202,205.80 with 2 simple signatures. Another special meeting would cost us thousands of dollars to make the simple bylaw change needed. Please, we call upon the members of our POA to reach out to the board members, demand a solution to this problem. Arch did us no favors, and our current officers proved to us that clearing the bank accounts can be easily done.
Tina Wall, was it Wallace?
No, we signed in thinking we had to sign in. This is our first meeting. We didn't know that was.
Welcome.
Welcome, Brad, do you want to? Nope, okay. Bren, are you here?
I did the same thing.
Okay. Joe also.
I hold in my hand a copy of the Padre Island Property Association's Board Policy Manual, and I wanted to be a member of the Policy Committee. I am going to read sections to back up what I'm going to say. First, Article 1, Public Discussion at Board of Directors meetings. The board believes that residents and owners of property in Padre Isle should be active in the POA activities and encourage attendance at board and committee meetings. At such meetings, everyone should have the opportunity to voice their opinions and complaints, but should be time limited, which is 3 minutes. The next I would like to read is the Code of Conduct and Conflict of Interest section, which was revised February 28, 1917. Under 12.101, General, all directors and officers and employees and volunteers of the PAO shall observe high standards of business and personal ethics and conduct of their duties and responsibilities. They must practice honesty and integrity, fulfilling their responsibilities, and comply with applicable laws and regulations. I was the first person to stand up here many moons ago with Robert's Rules of Order. The board was not complying with this. This was in our covenants, and it's been in the covenants since this organization was formed. One of those things that was denied us as members of this organization was the right to have a discussion between the members and the board at our annual meetings. We were handed rude 3x5 cards, and Mr. Moore pontificated upon each question. which is not discussion. It is not communication. I would like to point out that we have had financial problems back to 2008. This is in Petty Cash Fund, formally adopted 22, adopted September 24th, 2009. The PIPOA office receives cash as payment for various items such as boat ramp and car stickers. The 2008 audit recommended a better accounting to be instituted in order to maintain records of money received and spent. The reason I bring these up is we had a town hall meeting. It was for us, the members. It wasn't about Mr. Moore and his designated disruptor taking over the meeting. You know what, Mr. Moore? I'm not intimidated. Show up at my place of work and I'll hand you a shovel, because my horses produce a ton of manure and you're really good at shoveling.
Joe, easy does it.
Can I buy 1 minute?
Sure.
Okay.
We'll give it to you free.
All right. Let me just do it so everyone can hear me and see me, and let me just, we all here because we care. You don't have to say yes or no, because you're here and you took the time. So, yes, we may not agree with everyone's opinion. I agree with that. And I disagree with that too. I mean, but at the same time, let's just be easy. Okay? I don't know what happened last meeting. I don't care what happened last meeting. It's just, we can't fix all the problems today. I think we agree on that. But let's just be easy because no one wants to leave. Okay? That's all I'm going to say.
Okay, Marcia, is it Purcell? Ransell? Very good, okay. Thomas Casey? Thomas? No comment, all right. Kathy Bernard? The Gerards? Pass. Dwayne and Rhonda Fidel? Ted?
Thanks, but I'll be fine.
Oh, no, another Ted.
Good evening, everyone. I'm a fan of social media and spent probably way too much time on it. Can you hear me?
No.
Who are you? My name is Ted Mandel, and I live on Key Largo Court. Looking at social media this week, looking at social media last week, there were a bunch of comments about things we want to get done with the city. It was particularly brought up about whether we should or shouldn't have a volleyball court, a sand volleyball court, and what was being done about it. And it occurred to me that maybe this Island Strategic Action Committee would be a valuable place for us to make our thoughts known. And there was some discussion whether we did enough of that. It's shocking tonight when the board seemed surprised that there was a report from our board member, and I got the feeling we don't get regular reports. They meet once a month. Carter, I know, is on the board. He's not our official representative. They can do a lot of good, and they have official standing with the city. This association does not. So it seems the cloud is there. If we want litter critter, if we want or don't want a beach volleyball court, we ought to appear at those meetings, and we should have a representative that will report to us monthly whether any action was taken or action was taken. Just let us know what's going on. Thank you.
Carolyn, did you want to speak?
No, thank you.
James Reed.
Oh, not me. I thought it was attendance, not.
Nancy Horsley. You're welcome. Alan.
Well, Alan Guggenheim, 15346 Cartagena Court. Actually, I thought also it was a sign-up sheet, but I'll take the opportunity to address the group. Moved to the island about a year ago. I served as a member of the board and as treasurer of several HO associations, and I've been before in the same situation as we found here, which is a contentious meetings, contentious board. A majority of people voted to change the majority of the board and take a new direction, which I supported and I like. But now I think it's time to unite a little bit and to all work together. So some of the stupid, petty, attacks on cashier checks being moved from one bank to another and not respecting this or that, I think this has to stop. So on one hand, I prefer myself wire transfers than cashier check, because you never know, you could have an accident in between, and then it's even more questions. Did you have the accident on purpose or what? So, but I think we need to try to improve on what was done before, correct the mistakes, and for sure have an audit by a reputable firm, always have 3 bids for everything. So including, for example, the markers. I hope we have 3 bids and we pick the best one and we let the board manage and decide for a while, and then we judge them, and on the next election we decide, hey, are they good or not, or can we improve, and who else can volunteer. Let me tell you, having worked on boards like that for either people who were before or after, it's a lot of unpaid volunteer time and it's demanding. So give them a little bit of a break. We have a new board, and at least a new board majority, a new direction. Let's be civil and give everybody a voice, but don't abuse it. And please, let's move forward. Thank you.
Susan, did you want to speak?
No, I had those
The last one on the list, George Potter.
Thank you. My purpose in addressing the meeting today is to define exactly what leadership is. President and boards are charged to provide leadership to the Padre Island community. It is incumbent on what they do and what you were elected to do that for. So what is leadership? It's not threatening, gossiping, slandering, demeaning others. Transformational leadership, developed by Burns, is a style of leaders where leaders work with teams to identify needs and create a vision to guide change through inspiration. Charismatic leader is the ability to inspire, motivate, and perform at higher levels through the characteristics of maturity, compassion, listening skills, humanity. Leaders like Gandhi and Churchill and Martin Luther King and Kennedy and Reagan. Other types of leaders are the servant leaders, the bureaucratic leaders. As I observe neighbors against neighbors, friends against friends, I am, and we should all be, horrified. Instead of a group helping each other, pulling together to help each other, there are 2 groups, hell bent on destruction of the other. Imagine what if the 2 groups worked together. What if common goals were agreed upon and funds were raised for betterment of the community through parties, bonfires, events? Proverbs states that where there is no vision, my people perish. A true leader provides a vision. It is what we voted you to do, and it is in the past to be and make the future a positive, secure, hopeful, compassionate future. It is up to leadership to direct and implement this. Otherwise, it is not leadership. It is simply an exhibition of self-expression and a fight for power. Time for people in leadership positions and the community to provide a vision for the future and not just play the blame game or I've got you game, and really work toward a friendly, positive, hopeful future for the residents of the North Padre Island community. Please don't be an embarrassment to us as a community, to your friends, to your family, and to yourselves, but please provide leadership. Think what we could be if we could become and what we could accomplish instead of this mutual destruction in which is really destructive to our community. It is really time for a change. I've heard that slogan, we've all heard the slogan. It's time for a change. The book by Wilde suggests that silent power is a power of not intimidation, not loud threatening, but quiet confidence. Thank you.
All right, have we missed a member that wants to comment?
Yes, here.
Oh, Joe, sorry. Come on up.
Stand right here. My name is Joe Minervini. I live in Aquarius. I want to talk about the Primavera bulkhead damage. It's been pretty well established that the Grande Communications cut the tiebacks, which held up used to hold up the bulkheads at Primavera. Additionally, I learned from one of the neighbors there that there was a city storm drain that evidently had come disjoined from the bulkhead. It came from the streets, the sewers there in the streets, and went through the bulkhead. It's supposed to go into the canal, but evidently he went ahead and kind of filled up a lot of the water. I think, you know, I'm sure the engineer, whoever it was, Hanson or whatever, can back my story up and say, yes, that's what's really happened. There is a new storm drain there that the city put in, or the contractor did, thanks to him. But now that we kind of know, and it's been established, that Grande got the tiebacks, that the city sewer line may have attributed to the damage. My question is, our POA spent $400,000 in repair of that bulkhead. And on social media, as they say, there's been some questions, who the hell's pursuing Grande Communications? I know nobody's pursuing the city yet. Who's pursuing Grande Communications? And somebody said John Bell. I haven't seen John Bell in a few months. So my question to the board is, will we, should we, can we pursue maybe trying to get $400,000 back by the damage that wasn't created by us, the POA, or neglect on our part, by willful deeds, maybe not knowingly, by Grande Communications and the faulty city sewer. That's my question. My other comment is that, and maybe I misheard one of the questions that Brent asked, but he had asked about maintenance of Village Park. Well, my understanding was that when he was chair, he was in charge of the contract. In fact, the bidding process, which I'm still not too sure about, but I'll take that. I'm sure it was bid to a number of different people, but it's not yet. But as far as the maintenance, Brent should know the answer, and we should have set it up before all of this, and not put this on the back of the new board. But anyway, and again, the question: can we go after Grande Communications? Thank you.
All right, thank you, Joe. I can answer that. The POA has already filed suit against Grande Communications, and our attorney, Mr. Bell, has entered into discovery and is working on the case. So that's about all I can say on that. You want to have 3 minutes, Brent?
Yes, sir. Is the city part of that, the bulky park and the Primavera bulkhead thing? I think they should be. You got a big pocket.
This period is for member comments, not board comments. If you have something that you want to say, I want to be a member.
And a board.
All right, have at it.
All right, thank you. Appreciate that, Marvin. Regarding the park maintenance, the maintenance requirements are already set. And what my question was, are we going to do it or are we going to bid it out? That was simple. So we still have not determined that. As far as the police, I appreciate everything that the police do here and around the city. I've been asking for months for our police presence back at these meetings because we've had some disruptions. I also would like to pass out to the board. I think you guys have already seen this email, but or maybe not. There's 24 other calls that came into the POA office under Becky's tenure, and she documented those. I asked her for that after many calls that I got. So I'm going to pass this out to you guys just so you have a copy of it. And I'm going to add 2 more people to that list after I read these this social media post, and I think you'll find it's kind of interesting. Joe, you're one of them that supports that as well. There's big concerns to me. I did call the police at the town hall meeting, and it was certainly getting out of hand. I never made threats to your husband or anyone else. That's false. Just get that on the record. But I will tell you, and I'm also going to pass this to the board. I've got a handout here, and you've mentioned social media posts. Marvin, you've asked me. I prefer to do this in executive session to talk about all this, so we don't have to expose it. There's some very nasty posts in here. We talk about 357 Magnums. We talk about Kevlar vests. We talk about people getting stabbed with scissors. You guys want to read them? Yeah. I've got them right here. Everybody's got them. I agree with you, George Potter. It's time to stop. If anybody has, from the other side, posts that are like that, I would also request give them to Marvin in writing. Marvin, I'm going to give you these tonight, but I'm going to read one in particular that's very troublesome to me, and I'll tell you, I've got the police number right here. I've got it on my speed dial, and I'll use it now and in the future, anytime that I think something like this is going to happen. And this should all worry everybody. Michelle Jeffers, this is a post, and you're welcome to get a copy of it. I'll be glad to give it to you. Michelle Jeffers, the latest false report from Travis's page is that someone pulled out a gun at the town hall meeting. They really know how to spin up a story. Ray Murray, that guy's getting dangerous by spreading bullshit like he does. Yes, he likes to spin things. Joe Minervini, Michelle, wouldn't Travis's report warrant a phone call to the Corpus Christi Police Department? Please forward what Travis wrote. This is getting creepy. Carl Rubenstein, Joe, yes, and pay attention here. Joe, yes, not to get too far out there, but this reads like a novel. First, the shooter stirs up a confrontation with many physical threats after calling in the police. Then the shooter falsely claims he or she saw guns at the said altercation. Next, there's a meeting at which yet another melee is created by the shooter and his or her crew.
I would like to hear it.
Then some...
Well, he'll give you a
Marvin, it'll take me 30 seconds.
Go ahead.
So next, there's a meeting at which yet another melee is created by the shooter and his or her crew. Then someone is shot, based on the shooter's totally fake claims of fear for his or her personal safety, all based on the above described setup. Carl Rubenstein, add his name to that 24. The board should have police at the next board meeting, okay? The next post, Joe Minervini, Carl, hell yes, and all future board meetings. Still waiting for Michelle's posting of Travis's report. So yes, I called the police, and I'll call them again. Thank you for being here and answering the 24 members that asked for it.
While Brent's passing that out, I want to make a comment about threats and violence myself. There's no place for it here with our POA and our meetings. I don't care which side of the aisle you sit on or which team you play for, there's absolutely no call for violence, threats of violence, or threatening people. Marta has been threatened to have her eyes poked out. I've been threatened to get shot. All right? We can't stand this. This should be a fun and pleasant community to live in. So, for those that are behaving in that way, stop it. Questions? All right, let's move on. Thank you, Brent. All right, let's move on. President's comments. I'm going to use my time this evening to talk about something not too pleasant for us, and it may explain a few things. You may even have to read between the lines occasionally. All right. First of all, we need an audit out here. Our bookkeeping, banking records are a disaster. Okay? We've been working on that. I've been working on it for 60 days to try to sort it out with our new bookkeeper. They are a mess. Now, having said that, my following comments do not apply to our current bookkeeper in any way, shape, or form. 2, I'm not accusing anyone of a crime or theft. Everybody on the same page with that? Having said that, a previous bookkeeper we had that started in 2010 and worked for us for approximately 8 years until 2017 when she left. Here's what she did for the POA. Monthly reconcile of the company checkbooks, bank statements, etc. Record all income and expenses. Review and prepare your payroll records. Pay the payroll taxes. Prepare all quarterly and annual reports. Prepare any and all state franchise tax returns, if we have any. Prepare and present financial records. Now, having said that, this person was hired with no background investigation. In 2007, this person was charged in Spokane, Washington, with 6 felony counts of theft.
What's your point?
What's the point? What do you think the point is?
Of the 6 counts, 5 were for forgery and 1 was identity theft of her employer's money. She embezzled money.
Is there any?
You're out of order.
Yeah, so true.
Her husband was also charged. She pled guilty to first-degree felony of a theft over $1,500, a first-degree felony of ID theft. She was ordered to serve 12 months in jail and was released on probation after that, ordered to pay court costs, and restitution of $146,800. She moved to Corpus Christi from the state of Washington and took a job with our business here, our POA. She's not complied with her payment plan for restitution, and in my discussions with the district attorney's office up there, they're looking for a warrant. Now, when she left us, okay, under dubious circumstances, I might add, she was summoned to the Texas Board of Public Accountants, where she had continued a fraud by claiming to be a CPA. She entered into a stop agreement to no longer advertise herself as a CPA. Next, she was ordered to stop using a CPA's license number on tax returns. Apparently, when she filed tax returns, she would use a CPA's license number. And I'm hoping it wasn't our CPA's license number. Now, in 2016, Sue Stockton brought this to the attention of the board, or at least to Brent. Not that she was a felon, just that she knew that there had been problems with her in other locations.
Hot dang. Who let the dog out? Dog, look at this. Hot dog. I'm sorry.
You want to apologize now, Brett?
Yeah, who's the liar now?
All right.
Calm down.
Okay, it's fine, officer. All right. You want her to say? Okay. All right. She's fine. Not the Mickey Mouse Club.
Sue, please, come on, Sue.
Settle down.
I understand, but let's calm down here, okay? Thank you.
All right, moving on to the fall of 2016. I'm sorry, the fall of 2017. Apparently, 3 members of our board, Mr. Moore, Ms. Hess, and 2 members, and Ms. Perrin, the executive director, and Mr. Bell began to look into this. John Bell supplied on November 3rd a background check done through LexisNexis. She left. Fortunately, she's not with us as an employee anymore. All right. Now, we need an audit to determine, because there's reasonable suspicion here, folks, that there may be a problem with our bookkeeping, not only the bookkeeping, but maybe some money. Who knows? I'm not claiming the lady took anything, but it certainly would be reasonable suspicion.
You'll go too
Close. What should have happened at that time is, armed with that knowledge, we should have closed every bank account we have and moved the money to new accounts.
And if you were president, you could have done that, but you weren't.
None of the money was moved from one bank account to another. And you may have to read between the lines here, ladies and gentlemen.
Just read for us.
Come on. Carter, if you're going to interrupt me, I'm going to ask him to come up and...
Quiet. Why do you say read between the lines? What does that mean?
Come on, let's get it on.
We don't need to have him removed, just ask him to shut up.
Yes.
I don't care.
I don't know all the CCNR. I don't. I'm not claiming to know all the rules. Okay? But if it's out of order, whatever the order is, you know that's fine.
Let's calm down, everyone, please. Everyone calm down.
Board meeting, let's have a board meeting.
All right, let's move on. So the bank account should have been immediately closed to prevent any future or possible misuse. We should have had at least a targeted audit immediately to determine whether or not we had a problem. Not a compliance audit. I mean a real targeted criminal kind of audit. Nobody, as best I can tell, those three parties did not notify other board members of this issue. I certainly wasn't notified. I asked Becky Perrin when I learned of this what happened. She said she quit. All right. Now, this board has a fiduciary duty to maintain the security of the funds we have here with this community. In my opinion, okay, certain parties that didn't take any action failed that fiduciary duty.
Wow.
In my opinion, it was negligent not to close the bank accounts and not to advise other board members. That's my opinion. All right, we have no executive director at this time. Marta's going to pinch in and tell you some good things about the POA and what's going on.
I apologize for getting out of order.
Thank you, Sue. Okay. All of us are working very hard because there are a lot of broken systems. And it has been jarring to see them. I am not interested in blaming anyone. I'm interested in fixing the problems. So what I'm going to do here is to address the biggest issue we have before us. And forgive me for reading, but I have a raging sinus infection right now. It's hard for me to even breathe, much less think. And this is so important, I don't want to miss anything. Each of us, board, members, people at home, we have a choice to make here. What do we really want for the island? Do we want to protect and rebuild this community, or do you want to destroy it? Sledgehammers make lousy instruments for building bridges. You've all seen the slugfest on social media. We've had to hire a police officer to attend our meetings because of a few who can't control their anger. When I ask you this, when has threatening others ever created bonds of trust? When has that ever happened? I can only speak for myself, but I'm sitting in this chair because I'm willing to face this storm of hostility and discontent because each of you matters. I care about you and your property and the life you've built here. And I want to do the right thing for all of us. And if you dig down deep, that's what we all want. After the vote on our bylaws, I said something to the effect, never doubt what you can accomplish when people come together to work for a just cause. Every single one of us has that capacity. And I am calling on every one of you. I reached out in this spirit to Brent Moore, and I met with him and Leslie and Nick Colosi face to face. Everyone knows Brent and I don't agree on some things. Okay, so why would I do this? I did it because I wanted to listen to what he had to say. And when I did, I found at least some things that were common ground. I had a similar conversation with Carter. And it started, there we go. It started out pretty rocky until we both began to listen to each other. Listening is the first step. Communication and good systems is the foundation of any successful business.
Yes, please.
It was on, and they don't work too long.
I think we may have found the problem. Thank you, Brent. So, some funny things happened. Carter mentioned something about his past, a place called Balboa. And I said, you mean the Pink Palace? And we both looked at each other, and we realized we too have things in common. And from there on, we had a very good discussion about bulkheads and things that matter. Listening is the first step. Now, unfortunately, we stand at a very critical junction in our community. We have ominous problems that need immediate action. As you've heard, our accounting records are a bungled up mess. And I'll be perfectly honest, I've been in many, many businesses. I have never seen anything like this. We can't file our 2017 taxes because most of our records can't be reconciled. So it is ridiculous, Carter. Software in the office is so outdated and bollocksed up, they can't print out basic reports. A large amount of data in our system is flat out wrong, and that includes dates. Now, how does that happen? Not enough training, maybe the wrong software. There are lots of reasons why this could happen. I'm not here to hammer anybody. I'm here to say this is a problem we need to fix. We don't know how much is owed to us and can't do collection work because our accounts receivables are a train wreck, or as our bookkeeper says, a horror. Our financial reports have been nothing more than made-up numbers. They were guesstimates. Our membership list also is in deplorable condition. We aren't 100% sure which properties are within the POA and which aren't and which don't. And we also don't have contact information for at least 200 members. In February, we discovered 106 properties that we didn't know we had. Flower Bluff wasn't billed for years and ended up owing us $100,000. Our compliance program is limping along. We spent nearly $500,000 on Primavera, and it is already washed out. There are washouts over there right now. Village Park is one frustrating oversight after another. ACC badly needs to revise their guidelines to include newer materials, metal roofs, things that fit with building in today's world. The list of the broken systems we've inherited is lengthy and serious. We have no choice but to do a special audit. If we do one thing tonight, it has to be approving a special audit. To do otherwise would be incredibly foolish. At this time, we cannot afford extra services or surveys, no matter how nice and attractive they are, until we get our house in order. It's time to make a priority list and start making it happen. Fix things. I am not about playing the blame game. If I were, I would never sit down with Brent Moore or other people that you associate with one side or the other. I will walk across this aisle to anyone. I will walk across this entire island to shake hands with any member of our organization and do what is right for that person. For now, our funds need to be focused on the critical issues of rebuilding our systems to protect your money, build fair and reasonable and enforceable ACC and compliance programs, and making sure that our bulkheads are sound. We need to hire a director and needed personnel and get the right people for the job. This is it. This is our opportune moment. What will we do? Are we going to continue throwing rocks at each other? If we want to rebuild and restore our community, no one can stop us if we work together. If you do not want to bring our community together and insist on tearing down your neighbors, then no one can help you. No one. This is our choice. Once again, I say to you, never doubt what you can accomplish when people come together to work for a just cause. Thank you.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is the consent agenda, which we will deal with the minutes of the April 24th, May 22nd, and May 25th minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review them, and are there any corrections? Are the minutes approved? We don't need a motion on the consent agenda.
I'm fine.
Agree to have a meeting with the bookkeeper and a meeting with the CEO.
Carter, you're out of order again. We're talking about the minutes.
This is
Not in it.
this,
He's commenting on the minutes.
because I did this after the last meeting,
All right,
which
sorry.
was 22nd of May.
But then can't we agree that that needs to take place?
It'll go in the next set of minutes.
Yeah, but what
It'll go in
about,
the next set of minutes,
what
because I
about
can't
you and me?
redo in the minutes.
are we gonna meet with the CPA?
Carter, you're out of order. We're talking about approving the minutes.
So in the April 24th board meeting minutes, when I presented them to the board, I said at the beginning of the meeting I had left one section off, which was my omission. So I went back, so we didn't approve them, we just said go back again,
Right.
fix it. And then I sent it out pretty much within days, so everyone could read it. The 22nd of May meeting minutes, I also sent out, but I said again, we had a little bit of a hiccup with Becky leaving. I'd sent them to her and then they didn't quite get out at the time. And I also did the report the 25th of May, which was the special members meeting, which is the Arch group. So there are 3 sets of meeting minutes in the board packet, and unless there's something someone thinks is incredibly wrong in them, we're just sort of saying, are we ready to approve them and put them out on the website as published?
Okay, so.
So no one's
my
got any
point-
corrections?
My point is gonna be in the next set of meetings. And it's in there.
I haven't created tonight's meeting minutes because we haven't had a meeting yet. I'm trying, I'm writing notes.
All right, any objections to the minutes as they stand?
No.
All right, minutes approved.
Okay, thank you.
I guess I'll comment here on the executive director search. The search committee has interviewed 5 candidates. We've received multiple applications through our recruiting firm, LK Jordan. We have a meeting on Tuesday night to interview a candidate. Thursday night, beg your pardon. Thank you. Day after tomorrow, Thursday night, to interview a good quality candidate. We had 2 of them lined up. Unfortunately, the other one had a problem with a minor emergency. Can't make it. So we will be interviewing a very good candidate. Thursday night. We hope to have some more coming in shortly and find a replacement as quickly as possible. In fact, we've been interviewing the high-quality candidates within 24 hours of receiving their email. So we've been working very hard at that. All right. Moving on to committee reports. The Compliance Committee had no meeting. Marta.
As some of you know, I have sent out emails to the new people that have applied for the Compliance Committee. We're working together to get a meeting, and people are now, I'm really happy to say, excited and sending me the dates that will work for them. We're going to get that done, and I've reached out to people that were on the committee before to see if they want to continue. I've heard from one, but not another. As soon as we can get that together, we will push forward with that.
On to the Architectural Control Committee. Bob?
Good luck with that.
We'll see if this is going to work. Hang on. My name is Robert Prusky, and I'm the current chairperson for our Architectural Control Committee. Today I would like to make the recommendation to the board from our committee to accept Mr. Tom Cable as our newest committee member. He will be a big plus to our committee and will help us bring our guidelines into the year 2018. I have met with Tom a couple times. We don't always see eye to eye, but I think that's what's going to make for a good committee.
Thank you. We'll need a motion.
I make a motion that we accept your recommendations and put Tom Cable on the ACC.
I'll second that.
Discussion. No discussion? All right. Call the question. All in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous. Thank you, Tom. You're going to need it. All right, next, Canals and Waterways Committee. Come on up, Nita.
I'm Nita Smith from the Canals and Waterway Committee, and I'm lucky on my committee there's 5 of us, and there's people from all sides, and those in the middle, and those on no side, and we get along. The only problem we've had is trying to get things done once we decide they need to be done. The markers need to be done yesterday, as Richard pointed out. We want to make it very clear that we've been saying this for a long time, because if something does happen, we want to say loud and clear, we told you so, it needed to be done yesterday. Same thing is true when it comes to the no wake signs. We've been begging, they cost $80 a piece. We even go out and put them up ourselves, free. We still can't get the no wake signs, although I understand now they are going to be ordered. I managed to beg and borrow some from CTUC, free advertising for them. And then our committee this last time voted unanimously that we need to finish the bulkhead survey. I know there's a split decision on that, but the reason we decided that is we've only surveyed 1/4 of our 32 miles. And the 1/4 surveyed is our newest section. Our bulkheads are 40 to 50 years old. As a homeowner, I would like to know what my bulkhead looks like. We think it needs to help. We need it so that we can focus where we need to focus our attention to repair and replace bulkheads before it's too late. We need a baseline, an overview for planning. How do we know what we need to do if we can't look at the map like the 1/4 we have and say, uh-oh, these are red and orange. We need to take care of those first. We only have that for 1/4, the area over by Seacoast. It would also perhaps give us a basis for saying, yes, we do need to hire more people to do bulkhead cap and fix washouts. We've been saying for quite a while, we need at least one more crew working. We're calling in washouts and caps falling off. They're having to wait a year, 2 years. I think it's getting worse. I went back and went through the reports for from 2013 to 2016. I don't have 2017. In 2013, we repaired 10 washouts. That's 10 places, 10 properties. 2014, 29. 2015, 35. 2016, 42. I don't have 2017. This tells me we need that survey finished. We just have to. And we need to find where the places are. We need to get to them before the washouts occur, if possible. Primavera is another prime example of why we need a survey. And the sections were built at different times and at different specifications. And so you survey one that's built at one time with one set of specifications, you can't draw any kind of good conclusions to the section over here built at another time with a different set of specifications. And so our committee would like for the board to vote to go ahead and finish the survey until all 32 miles are done. It does not have to be by the same company, but it needs to be done. And I hope somebody here will make that motion. Okay. We're on record. We said it should be done. And I'll leave it at that.
Question for you. How many signs were you able to get from CETO?
When I called the man today, he was out on an airboat. So the conversation was limited. He promised me the 3 4 by 8 foot signs up and down the main canal that we lost in Harvey. He had agreed to stretch his budget as far as he could, but he had to check with somebody above, I believe, and so until I get back from him, I don't know. We need 40 signs. That will do 20 posts. I know that sounds like a lot. We have north and south canals. The south canal is pretty long, bends around. So 20 signs in the south canal means 10 posts. You look at our map, spread out 10 posts and say no weight, it doesn't go very far. And weights are one of the things that does the most damage to our bulkheads. Causes the washouts, not to mention our decks and docks. So,
Carter, did you have a question?
Yeah, are there rules about the no weight signs? I mean, they have to be a particular size and all this other stuff. Or why do they cost $80? Can't we just get them made in plastic and replace them every 10 years?
Plastic doesn't last long down here, obviously, with the sun and that sort of thing. They need to be at least 2 feet by 3 feet, or people can't see them until they're already on top of them. We did put up some smaller signs that got ordered by mistake, and when you got the boat, you can't see them until it's too late.
Are there federal rules or some kind of?
No. No. Other than the sheriff's boat is out here now patrolling, and I've been told they're patrolling anywhere from 3 to 4 days a week at random times, and they have actually written a ticket over $200 for somebody for unsafe boating. They too said we need more no weight signs before they feel comfortable writing tickets. They gave a lot of warnings, and they were surprised because they said over 90% of the people they stopped lived here. So all the people here saying it's the people coming in using our boat ramps, it's not our neighbors, folks, not true. It's 90% our neighbors.
Marta.
Anita, one solution might be if CETO is ordering them, maybe we can get them to order 40 signs and then we reimburse, or we purchase the part. We said we purchased 20, they donate 20, and then maybe we can work with Blue or one of our other contractors to get them in place as soon as possible.
I'd be happy with that, but somebody's going to have to explain to me the sales tax stuff.
And actually the other problem is that there's CETO advertising,
Yeah,
pretty much.
they're
They're not,
actual
so they're not the white with the red circle with the no weight or the cross
Has
through
their
no
phone
weight.
number on it.
So we were saying, let's do 50-50 split. We get half of them for free from CETO for their advertising, and we purchase the other half of them.
And the other half be the regular orange and white and black ones with the circle that everybody's used to seeing. The CETO ones actually say, pay attention, slow down underneath the no weight. So I think maybe the variety alternated may get some people's attention that are used to avoiding the regular signs.
You're not gonna put them in front of my house, right?
We're going to put them on the posts where they used to be. A lot of people have been asking us for no weight signs to put on their deck. And I did find out Mail-and-More actually will make little banners that actually the wind will blow through. You can get 2x4, 3x4 for less than $100. So anybody that wants one, go to Mail-and-More and put one on your deck.
All right, thank you. One more.
I would like to address, has everybody got their buttons turned off? Because I'm good.
No, she doesn't.
Turn your mic off.
There we go. All right, this is working better. All right, Nick and I and Vicki spent a great deal of time really exploring the GIS survey. And we came to the conclusion that we actually went out in boats with people that had in-depth knowledge about our bulkheads to see how helpful this document would be to us, the end product. It's a Google map with a bunch of little red and green dots where all our bulkheads are. The concept is beautiful. I don't have a problem with the concept. What I have a problem with is spending $120,000 a year to do a survey, and the office doesn't use it because they don't find it helpful. The information in every case was in error, outdated, because the bulkheads had already been repaired by the time the survey was done, or it was information we already knew. So, but there is something really important in why people like this survey. They want a baseline. They really want to know how solid our bulkheads are. But here's the thing, the guys in the boat that were looking, then they told me themselves, okay, this is directly from them, that they aren't looking at washouts. They are not looking at tiebacks. They are not looking at sheeting. They're not looking at weep holes. They're not looking at that. They're only looking at this because they can't. They can't go on people's property. They can't probe down in their property to see if there are washouts down there. They can't knock on and touch the cap to see if it's hollow, which would mean there's imminent failure. So the information we're getting is very limited. So we're not getting what we thought we would get from that. They can only see the cap on one side. Do you agree with that, Nick?
Can we stop? This is not.
One of the things that we discovered is when they do this visual inspection, they do not measure the cracks, they do not photograph the cracks. They give it an arbitrary rating of 1 to 5. The problem is the next person who comes back 2-3 years later has another arbitrary. There is no objective measurement. Also, the information they give us is sent to the office, given to John Pezzi, who then goes out to inspect it. In the meantime, the system we're using is the homeowner says, something's wrong with my bulkhead, at which time our office staff tells Pezzi to go look at it. He reports if it's good, bad, or what, and we authorize it being fixed. Also, Pezzi has been on these canals for, what, 20 years, 25 years. When he does his work, just as he goes along the canals, he sees problems. Basically, what we're doing with this survey is merely telling the office and Pezzi what they already know. So we get Pezzi inspecting, homeowners inspecting, and if you do this with this 5-year cycle, by the time you're done, 5 years, nothing counts. You start all over again.
So,
I would like to finish my.
Well, let's wrap this up, so move quick.
Okay.
This is, I wanted to address why I'm not pushing a motion that she's asked for. I don't know that the GIS will be the best service for us, but there's absolutely no reason we can't look into other ways of gaining the same information and making our own maps and coming up something that can be updated in a more timely manner and give us some things. The other thing is, I remind you again, we have a huge problem in our office. We need to focus money on those issues or our organization is going to come to a screeching halt. We have to do that. In the meantime, I'm happy to look into these issues. I'm sure everybody else here is, because we want to have that system work the best possible for making sure our bulkheads are secure. Thank you.
Last word, Carter.
So, there are actually rules and definitions and engineering things, and I don't pretend to know them, but I depend on people that do, to inspect these bulkheads. Marta, it was not $100,000 a year.
Yes, it is.
No, you weren't. I was here.
Carter,
I
make
didn't
your
hear.
statement. Let's get going.
Yeah.
That's just not correct. Okay, to keep the GIS up was nowhere near that. Anyway, the point is there are only a couple of people that do this sort of thing, and what you just did on film, again, is throw Hanson Engineering under the bus, and that you just got to stop doing that. It's a professional organization, and we hired them as a board.
All right,
Just
Carter,
because you
let's wrap it up
disagree,
here.
because you disagree with the concept, that certainly is debatable, but that was what this board hired those people to do. And they were doing what we hired them to do. And we thought it was a professional way to do it. So, is this board interested in establishing this baseline? Can we agree here that we're going to look into it and get together and agree on what concept of inspection? Don't you agree that we need to establish the life expectancy and those sorts of things of all 32 miles of our bulkheads? As a board, do we agree that we need to look into it and put it on our priority list?
It's not a
All right, it's not a vote. Let's move on here. Robert's Rules of Order.
One last, if I may. If we're not going to do the survey, to find out, our last suggestion is to hire at least a second crew to do the bulkhead repair caps. If it worked the way you were saying, it would be great. If I called in and said 3 feet of concrete just fell off my cap, and I was told, okay, it'll be repaired tomorrow, next week, next month, that would be great. Instead, what's happening are people are told next year, year after. And the longer that rebar is exposed to the salt air, the worse it gets, the more rust spreads, and it makes it for a more expensive repair down the road. We have been asking for over a year to have at least one more crew working. We were told no, and the reason we were given is because Bessie didn't want to run a second crew. There's also no follow-up inspection done after he does his work, just for the record. Thank you.
Well, that's not true. That's not true. A compliance person goes out, takes pictures before and after the repair. So
Maybe they do now, they didn't 2 years ago.
well, I don't know what happened 2 years ago. Moving on.
Marvin, this is our first time being here doing this. We had a concern about our architectural for our shade structure.
Okay. You're out of order.
I was told
You're
that
out of order.
at the time of all this infighting, we would be able to just say what we had to say, and that's it. This gentleman.
You are out of order. You don't get a chance to speak here. Officers.
That's all I want to do is talk. I'm not trying to do anything. He didn't sign in, you know, let him talk. I know, this gentleman did.
Wow. would be happy to entertain him in the public comment section, but in the middle of the meeting,
We were told we were
no.
only allowed him under the ACC part to there, and then so we got skipped over.
The Bylaws and Policies Procedures Committee had no meeting, no report. Quiet.
What do? You file a,
Variance.
Yes,
There's a procedure to follow to do this.
There's nothing in the packet for variance.
All right. Security Patrol Committee, no meeting. Bulkheads, no meeting. The Finance Committee, which we established last month, has 2 members. We're working on 2 more, and we'll have a report for you next month on that. Keith Clark and Alan Guggenheim are the 2 folks that have signed up so far. Thank you, gentlemen. Treasurer's report. Nick?
Before I give a treasury report, can I go back to the channel question?
No. Sorry.
That's all right, it's a motion. All right. This is rather involved. I wrote it out so I don't forget things, so don't tolerate with me. Concerning our bank accounts. For no apparent reason, our bank accounts are scattered all over the city. Statements come in at different times and are sometimes hard to balance. They use different formats.
All right.
This has not given us the opportunity, an optimal banking solutions. Therefore, in consultation with our bookkeeper, our CPA, President, and American Bank, we are moving to consolidate our accounts into one bank. This will streamline bookkeeping. First, it provides us with statements for each of our accounts in the same format on the same day so that they can be reconciled. The American Bank on the island also gives us convenience. We will have our usual accounts for our main operational account, our builder's account, and other accounts under one roof. We will have one person at the bank who we can go to for all questions, and they will find an answer instead of multiple banks, multiple people. We will be able to take advantage of payroll services that are more cost efficient than using our own staff. The service offers calculating wages and payroll taxes, filing the taxes, and direct deposit for all of our employees and vendors for only $50 a month. This means we'll also streamline our banking and keep our funds more secure by offering digital deposits. Cuts down on the need to run to the bank. We literally want this, we'll just go in strictly, go into the electronic world. With our investments, I met with our brokerage firm to review our accounts. When I called for an appointment, they were rather surprised because no one had really gone to talk to them. The good news is that the accounts are sound and there have never been any withdrawals. We would like to implement a system with a better eye on our accounts using our financial oversight committee. I had asked our investment company that they now, we do not know, they give us quarterly reports. However, they went to the executive director and they did not circulate. I saw one, just didn't even know they existed. I had asked the brokerage firm if they would send a representative to visit with us and give a formal presentation. And they said, yes, we'll put it into our schedule. They also, when I went over our portfolio with them, they said that nothing had been changed in a good number of years. They had various recommendations, such as right now, short-term CDs are better than the term bonds. However, I did not want to make any changes. I'm not a financial wizard. What I'm going to like to do is to have our financial advisory group, who will set up an appointment for them and me, just along as the treasurer. They will meet with our brokerage house, decide between all of them how we should change our investment portfolio, and then that will be presented to the board for a vote. What we're trying to do is bring our banking into the electronic age, clean things up, make it simplified, and to do that, we've got to start. American Bank was very good to us. They offered us many programs, which I'll get into as we go along, but we're taking one step at a time. As far as an actual financial report, It's in there if you can see it, but remember, these numbers are not accurate in any way. Our bookkeeper is being accurate as of right now, but we have no base numbers to start with. As you said before, they admit it's a mess. The only way to get good records is we have to have an audit, a special audit, start from scratch, and go from there.
Sir. Vicki, please.
Okay, so at our last meeting, I had voted against the audit and had asked for the people that were not available during the day to go into the office and have a look around. So there were 4 of us on the board that work pretty much, well, not me now, but full time. So we were not available to look at the books and look at the records and talk to the new CPAs, the new bookkeeper. So I did set up a meeting. We had it last week, and it will come out in this time's minutes, which will end up sometime next week. You guys will get the packet to review it. Anyway, aside from that, I do want to make a motion about this. So I've got this typed up because it's sort of really important, I think.
Is that a call for an audit?
I motion.
We haven't met with the CPA.
That the board.
Carter, leave her alone.
I motion that the board establish a fund of $50,000 to allow our CPA firm to perform a special audit as needed for tax years 2017 to 2013, with the understanding that they shall report their findings to the Treasurer and President at least on a monthly basis. The CPA firm's duties are to include recommendations for bringing our records and our accounting systems up to professional standards and providing internal controls to ensure that these standards are maintained in the future.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion, please. Carter.
We absolutely agreed to meet with the CPA firm, our new CPA firm, which is, by the way, hired to do the 2017 audit, before we went on this trail to get advice on what it is we should do. And now you're making Dr. Colosi's motion again for $50,000 to, and I just, we agreed in the motion, which you say you don't have. Well, it says we meet with the bookkeeper and the CPA, and we have not met with the CPA before making this decision to do this. Don't you think we should use the advice of our accounting firm? What is the deal with this?
Vicki has the floor.
So when I tabled the motions because it went through a couple of iterations. It was amended twice, once by Brent and then once by me. I tabled this type of motion until we had a chance, that was true, to talk to the bookkeeper and the CPA. The CPA has not reviewed our books at all, so they don't have a great understanding of what's going on. So at that meeting, I said to you at the beginning that the fact that they were not going to be represented there was not a big deal, because the person who's working with the books at this moment has been contacting them.
You four are going to shove this
So
$50,000. Watch, just watch. Watch.
Carter, you're going to have to stay in order. You're entitled to your opinion.
Thank you.
But you got to stay in order.
We were discussing.
Only one person gets the floor at a time.
If you
Carter?
make this motion before we meet with our accounting firm.
And seconded.
No, I mean passing it. Thanks for your help, sir. Thank you.
All right, Marta, you have the floor.
Thank you. Watch this.
You're not even following.
Actually, can you hear me? Oh, here we go. Actually, we have met with our CPA. They have reviewed the records of our old CPA. They do have a firm grasp of what's going on. They've been in communication with LaWanda, and they are urging us in the strongest terms possible to do an audit. And the nice thing about it is their attitude is it doesn't make sense to spend $20,000 dogging down a $500 problem. So the point is they are going to look where it's needed. And they will start with what Wanda has discovered and follow that trail wherever it needs to go to fix our books. Thank you.
Nick.
Additionally, talking to the CPA firm, originally that we were talking that we couldn't do an audit until late August because of personnel. Well, a local CPA firm apparently has closed rather abruptly. The owners just retired and didn't tell the staff. And our CPA firm has absorbed one or two of their CPAs and a number of their accountants, bookkeepers, and other people. We are at the point now that they are prepared to do our financial audit, special audit, and they can begin that in a week and a half to 2 weeks.
Brent, go ahead.
So, Marta, you said that we had met with the CPA. Can you just show of hands, who's met with the CPA on the board?
Nick, Marvin, and I.
Okay. And you said that they
And Brittany's making the motion.
and they have written recommendations to the board. I haven't received any of those copies of those, so show of hands, can we see who has received written recommendations?
He should be directing, the conversation should be directed to Marvin.
Okay, Marvin,
Come on.
because well,
Marvin, guys, let's do one at a time.
So Marvin made the comment that they have written recommendations to the board. So by a show of hands, can we see who has seen those written recommendations? This is the first I've heard of it.
Let's see them.
They are the conclusion based on our meeting and the two CPAs that were in the room. Period.
And Marty,
That's it. Go for it. Pack up your stuff. Let's go.
Well, so do I gotta go or what?
You gotta go. I mean, how many
Really?
Really? I asked you not to do this multiple times, Carter.
Oh, that's so
Thank you, Carter, for looking out for us. Thank you, Carter. Thank you.
so Marvin.
Motion on the
Marvin,
floor,
I still
we're
have-
having discussion. You
I
address
still
your
have the floor.
comments, not to her, but to me. Go ahead.
I did. So I was asking you questions. Is there any intent to provide recommendations to the board? Because there's three of us that haven't even seen any. Not one.
I haven't seen them either, so.
I need to give my proxy to.
Okay, I know.
He's out of water.
Okay.
He's out of order. Thank you.
Brent. Guys, I want to address Brent's question because it's a good one. Of course, this is like you've got a car that's broken down. Until you get the mechanic deeply in there and pop the hood, they can't tell you the full extent of the problem. But they have done enough to realize, based on multiple layers of information, that we need an audit. So we are trying to come up with something reasonable as a starting point. As they get in there, they will do the investigation, they will recommend changes for us, and they will put it in writing, Brent, and you will get it. You'll be a part of it. And then they will recommend internal controls so this never happens again.
Thank you, Marvin.
One more comment, and then we'll call the question.
So we have a policy that anything that we're gonna spend money on, we've had this a long-standing policy that if we're gonna take a vote, that we're gonna have the ability to review information. Without the review of the information, I see no way that 3 of the board members that can vote on this, which is me, Carter,
You and
and
I
Daryl.
and Carter went to the meeting.
With the CPA?
I'll comment on that.
The written recommendations to the board with the CPA, so we'll have to abstain.
Thank you. Daryl?
Yeah, we, Vicki, Marvin, myself,
And
Marvin,
Carter.
and met with Luana and Carter, yeah. I mean, I'm all for an audit, but I don't think we're at the point to do it. Luana did not seem like she was even ready, in my opinion. She had stacks of thousands of papers.
I sorted them today.
Okay, that was,
Wait, why did she not?
yeah,
You
that's
just
kind of out
did.
of order.
You just did.
So I'm all for an audit, just for the record here, everybody. Not at this point. And it was promised that the CPA would review it.
No one would.
But it's not happening, you know. It's not going out.
Violates policy.
It's supposed to be.
We don't even know. There's a policy for that. There absolutely is a policy that we would have the information to review before we vote on something to spend $50,000.
Out of order. Call the question.
I'm going to read it again. I motion that the board establish a fund of $50,000 to allow our CPA firm to perform a special audit as needed for tax years 2017 to 2013, with the understanding that they shall report their findings to the Treasurer and President at least on a monthly basis. The CPA firm's duties are to include recommendations for bringing our records and our accounting system up to professional standards and providing internal controls to ensure that these standards are maintained in the future. And we had a second on that.
We've already had a second. All those in favor, raise your hand.
Did you say you abstained?
All those opposed, raise your hand.
Thank you, Fred.
I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand.
He said no. He said no. Did you say no or yes? Can I say one thing?
The motion carries 4 yes, 1 no, and 1 abstention apparently.
He said abstain.
All right. Let's see. All right, let's move on to new business. Quiet down, please. Ladies. New business. Video streaming. Brent had put this on. I just think we'll save it and recycle it for the next meeting. He can comment on that. Proposal for Cabo de Barro boat ramp parking lot. The Cabo de Barro. The boat ramp there is in need of repair. We had a really good suggestion from John Pezzi, the fellow that fixes the bulkheads. Thank you. I guess it would be the west side of the parking lot there is kind of washed out. And he suggests putting up a curb or something of that nature, and then filling it all in and expanding the parking lot so there's a lot more room to park cars and trailers and the like. Okay. He's given us a proposal, but we can't accept one person's proposal. We have to put it out to bid. All right. His particular, well, I don't want to say that for competitive reasons. Others may want to deal with them. So, I would like to have us put that out for bid to see what the cost would be and have some plans created and that kind of thing. Is there a motion to put out a bid for curbing the boat ramp and expanding the parking lot?
Yes.
Yes, all right. Darrell makes a motion to put it out to bid. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Discussion.
Got to do it. Let's get the bids going.
All right, call the question. All those in favor, raise your hand. We need to also repave the parking lot there in addition to this. Now, while we're working on this, it's probably a better idea to use concrete for our boat ramps than asphalt. Apparently the asphalt tears up a lot faster. Am I right? Yeah. Just to inspect them all the time. So we're going to be, we already have permission to bid that out, so we'll take care of that as well. While we're on the subject of boat ramps and canals, we didn't get to the canal markers. Anyone want to make a motion regarding the canal markers?
You get the verbiage? All right. I'll make the motion. Okay, I'll make the motion.
No, this.
Get that back. Okay. I make the motion to obtain another bid from Blue for a maintenance contract to replace, straighten pilings, and install signage on a per pole basis so that we can get the down poles fixed, the listing ones righted, the missing ones replaced, and do what needs to be done out there. Okay, let's make multiple bids.
Would you restate your motion, please?
Sure. Let's just change one word. All right. Our motion is to obtain multiple bids for maintenance contracts to replace and straighten pilings and install signage on a per pole basis. So we do ongoing maintenance as needed.
All right, there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I second it.
All right, Nick seconds it. Discussion.
Yeah. I don't know who the gentleman was earlier, but I think it's wise to at least the ones that are bent over and all that, whoever it was. I think we need to replace them all while they're out there. They're going to charge us a mobilization fee, no matter what. At least make them do some assessment and give us their professional opinion of whether they need to be replaced, not just upright them and go with it.
That's not the plan. Marta, would you explain?
I agree to an extent. We need to watch our money right now because of audit and problems in the office, because we're going to have to hire some temporary people to even get this accomplished. It's going to take heavy lifting. But these channel markers are really important. And I would like someone to maintain them as needed and have somebody out there, if they see a pole that needs to be replaced, fine, replace it. But if it's just leaning over and it can be straightened, then I don't see a problem with that. And here's the analogy. When we had Hurricane Harvey, a whole bunch of our telephone poles were listed. We didn't go through and take out all of our telephone poles and put all new ones in. We fixed the ones that needed to be fixed. And I think that is a practical solution for now. And if they look at one that we didn't count, that it turns out below the water line or at the water line, it's deteriorated, they poke into it and the wood is soft, well, of course, we'll replace the ones that need to be replaced. I think it will be a little bit more cost effective for us. My opinion.
All right. I'm going to comment on this myself. It doesn't make any sense to replace a perfectly good piling pole out there. If you get a flat tire, do you replace all 4 tires on your car? No, you buy a new tire. It doesn't make any sense to replace poles there that are perfectly good. If it's not good, it's going to come out. If it's good, it's going to stay. That's the maintenance approach we'd like to take. All right. Any further discussion? And we'll call the question.
Okay. The motion is to obtain multiple bids for a maintenance contract to replace, straighten pilings, and install signage on a per pole basis.
All right, all those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? Motion carries, 4 yes, 1 no. We have no variances from the ACC committee. It's unfortunate that those folks came in. Are they still here? Okay, there's a procedure to follow to file a variance with the ACC committee. If the committee denies them, then they get to come to the board and appeal their case. The board gives a yes or a no, and that's the situation. Okay? You can't show up in the middle of the meeting and start arguing about it. I don't know whether they've got a good case or a bad case, but we do have a procedure that you got to follow. It's as simple as that. It's unfortunate. They're nice people, but we have to follow the rules sometimes. All right, I think we've covered everything.
I have a motion.
A motion.
I motion to adjourn the meeting.
All right, Marta seconded the motion. Any discussion?
No.
No discussion? Call the question. All those in favor of adjourning? Unanimous. Wow. 7:35.
Great job, guys. Great job tonight. Thank you. Thank you for everything. Thank you.
They should know Robert's rules.
Starry, starry night.